Welcome back to this next lesson, which is Oracle Internet Directory Consoles, and we are going to look at various consoles. But before we go on to the console, let me quickly walk you through in the file system. So what you see here is the middleware home. So we installed our OID inside U01 app Oracle FMW underscore OID, and inside that what you can see is you see ACE inst1, and this is the instance home for OID or all the OID processes. This is my coherence home. This is where I have installed coherence. This is my IDM folder. This is my OID Oracle home. This is Oracle Common, which is Oracle Common Home. This is where my enterprise manager or Java required files will go. And this is all these things we covered already in module 2 when we were looking at Oracle Fusion Middleware concepts. This is my domain home. For my DIP and ODSM applications will go there. And this is my WebLogic server. This is where my WebLogic home is. Now, what's important out of this, all these is the most important thing which you'll be doing is ACE inst1, and this is my old entire instance. And within this instance, when you enable auditing, the auditing will go into audit log. The executables go with in start stop command will go into bin folder. All the configurations will go into this folder. Any error messages, everything will go into diagnostic. Anything related to enterprise manager, fusion middleware control will go into this. And these two are for a different purpose. This is for which I'll cover a little bit later on these. So once you know this, most of the time you will be working with either config or diagnostic. So what you look in the config folder is you have tnsnames.ora, and this is how tnsnames.ora its server connects. So this represents how the OID processes will talk to the database. Where is my host name? My host is IAM. And so if I look at the cat etc host file, my IAM is on the same machine, which is this machine, which is, so I have a soft name here, IAM somewhere. This is this name and represented by this host name. The database port number is 1521. The service name is this. So it's connected to this machine. Now, apart from that, it also has OID configuration and OPMN configuration. We'll talk to these things a little bit later. So then you go to diagnostics, and this is where you have logs, and within logs you have OID log and OPMN log and enterprise manager agent log. So if there's any problem, you're going to look at OPMN, but there's a lesson on the troubleshooting. So I'll focus on this when we look at the troubleshooting section. So let's head on back to our main lesson objective, which is Oracle Internet Directory Consoles. Now, so the one and the most important console is going to be ODSM Console. ODSM Console, which is a Oracle Directory Service Manager, and use this console in OUD as well. However, in 12c, the ODSM console for OUD is OUD Console or OUD Service Manager, which is something for Oracle Unified Directory. ODSM, this is a Java application deployed on, you can either deploy it on the admin server or you can deploy it on managed server. Now, if you have selected the way we did installation in the previous lessons, then it's going to get deployed on the managed server. And the port number of the managed server, you can either see it from WebLogic configuration, which is domain home config.xml, or you can look at it from a WebLogic console as well. It's a graphical user interface to manage OID. Then in URI, how you're going to access it, whatever is the managed server port number and /ODSM. And you can connect to the LDAP either using LDAP port number or LDAP secure. So just to show you how does it look like, let me connect to one of the servers. And so I need to start Internet Explorer. So I'm connecting to one of the servers where we've already installed OUD, and I've already installed it under. So this is my IP address of the machine where OID or ODSM is installed. It's running on a managed server, and managed server is listening on port number 7005, and the URI for that is always ODSM. And by the way, so it's not available. So let me see why it's not available. That means my services might be down. So this, if let's suppose you are in this situation like this and say server is not available. So first is you need to go back and look at the configuration, whether the configuration is right or wrong. So your domain and config, and you're going to open config.xml and look for a server which looks like ODSM. So we are going to search for server, and here, so this is for admin server. We are going to look at the managed server. So this is my server, which is WLS_ODS1, and the port number is 7005. So port number looks correct. Now next we need to see is whether this port is listening or not. So netstat -an and then pipe and grep for 7005, and it's not up. So what I need to do is I need to start the managed server. How do you start the managed server? When we're looking at, there is a dedicated module about start and shutdown services, but for your representation, for easy to remember, what you do, you go to domain home and go to bin and then start. Ideally, when you install and configure, the ODSM will start automatically, but on this server I've already stopped and started services couple of times, and yesterday I stopped the services, so I need to start them again. So you go to this bin folder and say no hub and /start manage server, start manage weblogic.sh, and name of the managed server, which is WLS_ODS1 and ampersand, and let it run. So you do a tail -f and then nohub.out, and it will start. It'll take few minutes, or maybe 5-6 minutes, and once you see that it's all started, we'll go back onto the ODSM and access it. So going back to our presentation here, so this is how you access it, which is manage server port number /ODSM. Now when you connect to the from ODSM, you're going to connect to the OID, and when you connect, we'll see that in a screen you can either connect using LDAP or secure LDAP. And how do you see that? How do your connection look like? So this is how you're going to connect. This is how the configuration is going to look like, and I'm going to explain that in a minute as well. So you select the name and you say here port number. So if you use non-SSL port, it's LDAP. If you use SSL port, then you will say LDAP as or secure port. So this is how the configuration is going to look like, or connection screen is going to look like. So what you do with this ODSM, you can pretty much do every configuration, all the configuration for OID, as well as configuration of object or management of object. You will do it through this ODSM, Oracle Directory Service Manager. So you create attributes, object classes, you create password policies, you create users, groups, any entity. All we are going to look at here today. So this is all about ODSM in a nutshell. So this is a screen which is going to look like, once our ODSM starts, we are going to connect, and this is how it's going to look like. So I'll have a relm. So relm, or the domain, is what you see here, which is dc=com, and dc=, in our hands-on or activity guide, we have changed it to dc=com, dc=k20 in academy. So you'll see that. Then under that you will have users, and under you will also have groups here. There's something called as distinguished name, which is a unique name through which you can reach out to an entry. So from here to here, this is called as DN, or also called as distinguished name, which represents CN stands for common name. So common name, and then is OM admin, that's under the container, which is users, and that's under the domain. So this is a unique or distinguished name through which, and each entry will have a different distinguished name. It also, you see there is attributes. So what you see are attributes, these, and below that description. So these are attributes. So common, CN, SN, description, these are attributes. And some of them are mandatory attribute, which are represented by stars here. And some are optional attributes, which means you must always provide entry to the mandatory attribute. If it's an optional attribute, like the attribute represented by description here, which is without star, you can leave it blank value as well. You don't have to provide the value. Then you have an object class, and this is, again, earlier we looked, or I explained briefly in the previous lessons, what is an object class. Collection of attributes will make an object class. So this is what you see in ODSM console. So let's go and look back whether my services have come up, and you see now here my ODSM have come up. So what you see, ultimately you see that it should be, you should see the status as running in production mode. So it's running, and it should be saying a listening services. So this is what we should see the value running mode here. Now it means my server is up and running. Now on what port number and what IP? This is the IP and port number. So this is how you can see whether it's up and running. There are various phases when it starts. It goes into admin mode. It goes into resuming mode. From resuming, it goes to the production mode or running mode. And this is what we should see. So I should be able to connect to this server. So if I want to connect, if I now go and hit enter here on 2007 ODSM, and if it still doesn't work, and if it doesn't work, there could be then there's a firewall blocking between my computer and on the server. So these are few things to check. Now, when you connect, you're going to get a screen like that, and you say connect to the directory. And now I've already made a connection, and that's why you see a saved connection. If not, you will not see if you're going to do it first time, you will see an entry like create a new connection. So you click on create a new connection and you save whether you want to connect to OID or OVD. In our case, we are connecting to OID. So we'll select OID. You specify a name which will store. In my case earlier, I selected a name which you saw earlier over there. Then you specify server, which is a server host name where OID is running, or IP address, the port number on which OID is listening. And if you don't know what is the port number on which OID is listening, you go and set your environment variable. And this environment variable we cover or create in one of the activity guide. So the most important thing in environment variable to represent is path, and path should have an Oracle instance bin folder. And what is my Oracle instance? My Oracle instance is pointing to middleware home as inst underscore 1. So this is my path. So I'm going to directly run opmnctl status -l. So if you see here, the OID processes, this is my OID processor, and it's saying my LDAP port is 3060, my secure port is 3061, and this is how you can find out. So I'm going to connect it to 3060 here, and then specify the username, which is going to be cn is equal to orcl-admin, and password of the orcl-admin. And where do you want to land after logging? You want to land on home page, you want to go into data browser, you want to go into schema, security advanced, and click on connect. So I've already had an entry, so I'm going to use that entry, which is this. So everything is already pre-defined here. My host name is this, which is on the same host, and connecting to the 3060 port. And I'll specify the password as welcome one, because that's what I kept during configuration of OID. Now I've landed on a home page. I can go to data browser, I can go to schema, I can go to security, and I can go to advanced, any of these tabs. I'm going to explain all this in a high level in a minute. So this is about ODSM console. Now ODSM console, there are two different type of ODSM consoles in 11G. One is for OID and OVD, the one which you see here. There's another ODSM console, which is Oracle Directory Service Manager console, also in OUD, and that's a slightly different. Oracle Unified Directory, there's ODSM for OUD, which is slightly different, but work-wise it's same. Now in 12C, that OUDSM or ODSM is now changed to OUDSM, Oracle Unified Directory, as I said earlier. So this ODSM is different, slightly different from, so ODSM for OID is slightly different than ODSM for OUD, but more or less the functionality is same. So that was about ODSM console. Then second console is about WebLogic console. Again, I covered this WebLogic console in detail when we were looking at the Fusion middleware console, but I'm going to briefly touch base again here. In our case, we have two WebLogic domains. One we have created now. This is for OID, and second domain we are going to cover or create in the next module for Oracle Access Manager. So that's what we are going to cover. But my OID, I used a different WebLogic port because I reserved my 7001 port for Oracle Access Manager. So in OID, we created our Oracle Oracle Internet Directory WebLogic port on 7003. You access it from a console. So it's an application deployed again on admin server. It's graphical user interface to manage the WebLogic server. And what servers we have for WebLogic? For OID, we have DIP and ODSM. So this is the managed server that you see. It's part of a cluster. It's running. It's on the port number 7005 port number. So from here, you can go to control and start and stop services from console. Or you can configure clusters, you can configure JDBC and a lot more on this console. So this is about the WebLogic console for OID. Then you have one more console, which is Enterprise Manager console. But before we go on to the server, let's see, let me start because services might be down again. So I'll go and look for, first of all, the port number 7003. And if it's not running, I'll start the services. So I'll say group 7003 and it's not running. So I'll go back to the domain home and I'll go to bin folder. And this time I'm going to look at again, this time instead of manage WebLogic, I'm going to start WebLogic. So I'll say I'll start in a no hub mode so that it runs in the background. Again, there's another thing which I'm not sure if I've explained so far, but there is a concept called boot.properties file. And by default, I need to provide a username and password to start these servers or WebLogic servers. But because I've created a boot.properties file, which I've not shown it, I don't think I've shown it here yet so far. I'll explain it a minute when we come to that point. So I've already created the boot.properties, and that's why it's not prompting me for any username and password. So let's see whether it's had started or it is now starting the services. But in the meantime, let me show you what I mean by boot.properties. So we go to domain home and we go to servers folder, and inside that I have two servers. One, this is my admin server and this is my managed server. And in each of these, I'll go to the respective server, and inside that I have a folder called security folder. So inside the domain home servers, name of the server, and I go to security, and you will see a file called boot.properties. So what I'm going to do is I will create a boot.properties file with a simple username is equal to WebLogic in clear text, and password is equal to name of the WebLogic password, or password of the WebLogic user. And when the server starts, it automatically going to obfuscate this in and using AES algorithm, and this is what you see here. Similarly, I've already created this file earlier for WLS_ODS1 as well, and that's why you see it has not prompted us for username and password. Again, these are covered in your activity guide, so we have already covered this in the activity guide. Now, other thing to note here is that even though the username and passwords are same, but it will not store, you will not see the same value. If you see here username, it says something like this here, where it's something different here. So this is here, this one. Even though the username is same, this is the username, my mistake. So this is the username, which is WebLogic, and this is also WebLogic, but it's WebLogic's interpretation of that, so that you can't recover, or no one can recover what is the username and password if someone get hold of this file. So this is an extra security requirement. So we'll go back onto the server and see if my server is up and running for the admin server. So we'll look again the no-hub file, and it failed for some reason. It's a null point exception, and I'm not sure why null point exception, but let's see if it comes up again. There might be some error. We'll see that, or we'll have to see. But because my admin server is up and running now, it's saying running, and the IP address I got is this one, which is 102, and I just need to find out the port number. So if you look at, this is my server, so it's listening on 7003 port number. So I should be able to now go and connect onto the 7003 port number, 7003 and console. So this is my WebLogic console. I'm not going to go into console because I think you can easily go and navigate. What I'm keen to show you is Enterprise Manager. So I'll say 7003 and EM. And now I'm on an Enterprise Manager port number. First time it's a little bit slow. It takes a little bit time. And I'm not sure because I had this problem. So if it's going to create any issue, but hopefully it should be okay. If there's any problem, we'll see that problem into the log file as well. So I got the page. I type the username, which is going to be the WebLogic user or the super user who has domain right on this server, which is WebLogic. And so you create this user at the time of configuring the OID WebLogic domain. And once you log into the Enterprise Manager, these are some of the functionality you can go do. So you will see under left hand side, you will see identity and access. and you go and identity access, depending on what all services you have configured, you might see DIP, you might see OID, and if you have configured OVD, you will also see OVD here, and so on. If you've configured access management, you will see access management as well. We are going to look at in next module where we'll look at Oracle Access Manager, we'll look at those components. This is where you can configure the properties. So one way to configure properties is from here, Enterprise Manager. You can also configure the properties from ODSM using directly storing in. Ultimately, whether you do it from here or you do from ODSM, ultimately these are going to be stored in the OID database only. So what you can do from here, you can stop the services from Enterprise Manager. You can make the OID configuration. You can make the DIP configuration. You can configure SSL. You can do a lot of other configurations or server properties. You can change the port number and all those things. So you can change it from here, or you can change the SSL setting, and a lot more you can do from this screen. So this is about Enterprise Manager. This is where I was showing you. This is how it is now logged in, and you can go here and play with this. You can click on this, and right hand side it drop down will come, or you can right click from here itself and do some setting configuration. So if I look at the right hand side here, I can do monitoring, I can do start stop, I can configure the log file or view the log file, I can look at the port uses, which port is being used for what. I can also do the administration. I can look at the server properties. I can look at the shared properties, replication. This is where if you want my OID to be in active replication across data centers, I can do the tuning. If I want certificates, I'll use security wallets. I can configure auditing, and I can also go from here to ODSM consoles. This is all about Enterprise Manager. In the most important thing, or most of the time configuration you'll be doing, is server properties, and this is where you'll be configuring OID configuration. So this is about Enterprise Manager Console. So in the next lesson, we are going to look at Oracle Internet Directory File System. I briefly touched base in this lesson, but I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the main configurations on, especially around the log files or the important log files. We've also covered this file system a little bit about various homes in module 2, where we looked at Oracle Fusion Middleware concept. So if you have not yet watched module 2, which is Fusion Middleware concept, as a bonus, make sure you watch that. So head on to the next lesson, which is about OID file system.